Welcome to the Deeper Into Movies podcast. My name is Stephen T. Hanley. I'm the founder and lead creator of Deeper Into Movies. We are a pop-up cinema based in London. Today on the podcast, I'm joined by the British actor Ben Whishaw. Ben is an incredible actor who's been doing amazing work for so many years now. We've always been a huge fan of his performances and his film choices. Ben is a really sweet guy, as you'll hear. It was super interesting for me to hear about how he started in film and what it was like walking into those huge productions as such a young actor. During the podcast, I mentioned one of Ben's roles, which I called a very British scandal. The TV miniseries is called A Very English Scandal. Just in case you're trying to find it on BBC or Netflix. And as I said on the podcast, that performance is simply incredible. So beautiful, so vulnerable. Just a knockout performance. Okay, here's me and the great Ben Whishaw. How you doing?
I'm not too bad. How are you, Stephen?
I'm good. This is earliest I've ever done a podcast, so...
I know, it's ridiculously early. I'm really grateful. I was feeling the same. This is not an hour I thought I'd be seeing on today. But anyway, it was my call. Thank you.
No, it's all good. I'm not a morning person. I was trying to frantically print my notes this morning and then realized I was plugged into my label printer, not my actual printer. And my girlfriend said, "What the fuck are you doing? That's the label printer for the merch." I was like, so I just probably have like 50 Whishaw questions on stickers.
Stickers. Brilliant. Yeah. You need me to record it on here too? Is that what you said?
Yeah, that'd be great. Then we can just get 2 channels of audio.
Okay, and just on a voice memo thing?
Perfect, yeah.
Begin. Yeah, here we go. Cool.
So, what movies did you grow up watching? What films made an impact on you?
Jesus. Honestly, it was like Disney musicals. As a kid, you know?
Right,
they were
sure.
the first things I saw.
Yeah.
I mean, as a kid, I remember I just was obsessed with Mary Poppins and Oliver the musical. And then I think as a teenager, I don't really remember watching films that much. It was kind of something that I got into later on in life a bit. When I was as a teenager or as a younger person, I was completely obsessed with theatre,
right.
Which is what I got. And it was really only I think I was like in my 20s when I really properly discovered the films that I now really love. And that was because someone told me if I wanted to work in films, I needed to watch films and understand films a bit better. And then I worked with I started to work with directors and they would give me things to watch, stuff that had inspired them and influenced them. But yeah, I didn't grow up in a very filmy or arty environment particularly.
So if it wasn't movies, let's say what stage play really had an impact on you?
Well, as I said, I didn't really grow up being taken to the theatre. But then when I was a teenager, I went to this, well, my dad took me to this youth theatre. And the man who ran the youth theatre at the town near where I lived, brilliant man, called Rory Reynolds, and he used to take me to the theatre, and he took me to see incredible things. This is in the 90s, and he took not just me, he took the whole lot of us to see plays. And he used to take us to the Royal Court, which at the time, the Royal Court Theatre, and at the time was doing amazing work by people like Sarah Kane and people that are now, I think they're sort of lumped under the thing like in your face theatre, which is a horrible term, but kind of quite brutal, quite shocking, explicit plays, which is hilarious really when I look back on it. But I remember being taken to see a play called Blasted by Sarah Kane, and I was a teenager, maybe 15. And I didn't know what had hit me. It was so, I didn't know what to make of it at all. And I think I probably disliked it because it was so unusual. So,
was that the one set in the hotel room? Is that
it's set in a hotel room, and
with the army vet. Is that the army veteran or?
Yeah, there is a man and a woman in the hotel room, and then suddenly, or not suddenly, slowly, the whole thing kind of fractures, and we're no longer quite in the hotel room, although we are, and suddenly a soldier comes in, and everything collapses, and all manner of horrific things happen in this hotel room. I think she wrote it inspired by the Bosnian War. I guess that would have been at the time. And but I guess she's exploring, how the fine line between civilization and total anarchy and chaos and everything like that. But I remember that there's a scene when someone eats a dead baby.
Yeah, I remember that being in the headlines and causing walkouts and stuff.
Exactly. So got taken to see things like that. Got taken to see strange, experimental, physical theatre stuff. That it was really an education, I guess, in that this man gave us, or in theatre and literature and all sorts of things, art. And God, yeah, I mean, I as I get older, I feel more and more grateful for that, because I really don't know if I would be doing what I'm doing now if it were not for those experiences then,
Yeah, I always think about those people who turned me on to things, or teachers who made me a list in college of, you're doing cool stuff, but do your homework and check out the influences of directors you like now. Or
yeah.
I was thinking I first saw you in, my first memory of you is in Nathan Barley. And I just remember feeling terribly sorry for you throughout the entire series because you were just constantly getting pranked and tortured.
Yeah, that was like one of the first jobs I ever did out of, drama school. And again, looking back, like what an amazing piece of good luck to get to work with Chris Morris on something like that so early in my work. I haven't watched that show for many years, and I know that at the time it maybe wasn't as understood as people were hoping it would be, but I think now it's got a real loyal following, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just way ahead of its time. Even down to his ridiculous phone is basically for iPhone. When he's like, DJ Jex, camera, MP3, where's yours? And it's like, that's the iPhone right there. That's every wild, obnoxious person just playing loud music on buses and stuff. I think if that came out in a year later, when like hipster wankers were really such a big thing in popular culture, then that...
Yeah. I remember people thinking, this isn't real. This is not what people are like. It was
really
kind
is.
Of prophetic.
Go to any media meeting in Shoreditch. This is absolutely bang on to the culture.
Yeah.
How was he as a director?
I remember him being amazing. I mean, of course, and actually really gentle. And I remember that it was incredibly extensively workshopped, the whole thing. It took months and months and months. I mean, again, looking back, I had nothing to compare it to really at the time. But looking back, I see that was quite an unusual and extraordinary way to work. Extremely exacting person. But given how savage most of his work is, he as a person was extremely gentle. I really loved him. God, I haven't thought about that in a long time.
Which came first, Hamlet or Nathan Barley?
Nathan Barley. Okay. Yeah, Nathan Barley. I think I finished drama school and went straight into that. And then Hamlet came, I don't know. Oh,
2004.
No, that's completely wrong. I was doing them both at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah, I was doing them both at the same time. But the workshopping of Nathan Barley went on so long that because we began workshopping it in the summer of 2003, and then I think we filmed it in the summer of 2004 when I was also doing Hamlet. So I would do Hamlet at night and then go and do that during the day. That's wild to remember.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It'd be so great if you got your scripts mixed up.
I think I probably did, to be fair.
But this was a huge production. You got people say now it's the definitive version of Hamlet, wildly acclaimed at the time. And am I right? It was a big deal that someone as young as you was playing the Prince of Denmark.
Yeah, I think it was quite a big deal. I think other young people had played it, but they'd been established actors in some way, whereas I was completely unknown. And I think that was surprising to people. Again, I haven't really thought about this in ages, but I think that was one of those amazing things that I feel just like blessed that I was in the right place at the right time and had that opportunity. And again, I remember not really being aware of quite what it was I was taking on. I mean, the scale of it all. It was at the Old Vic Theatre, and which has this illustrious history, and so many other people have played the character on that stage and blah, blah, blah. But I wasn't really aware of it. And I just really felt like I understood that role. I didn't even remember thinking about it much. I was just like, yeah, I get this guy. I completely get it. I know this person completely. Everything he feels, I feel. It all was quite, I wouldn't, not easy, but it came, something about it came naturally to me. Which doesn't happen, I see now, very often, now that I've been acting for longer. But with that role, I just felt very, I was like, oh, this is mine. I completely know this somehow.
What elements of a character do you think you were relating to or empathizing with?
It probably sounds really corny, but just a general sense of being misunderstood, not fitting in, hating myself, thinking too much, a sense of being really young but also really old at the same time, and stuff like that. Yeah.
So then, wow, you were on a run, man. 2006, Perfume. That was huge.
Yeah. Well, that's, again, so I think when I did that film, well, Tom Tykwer, who is this wonderful director of Perfume, he came to see Hamlet, and I think they'd been searching for someone to play this this central character, and he saw Hamlet and thought that, and again, I was really not a name or a star or anything. And it's wild to me now to think that they thought that they could fund a film on someone so unknown. But he came to see the show and got me to audition for the character. And Tom was someone who was like, you've got to see more films, and gave me loads of stuff to watch. And really, because he's seen everything that ever was. He's a real cinephile. Is that the word?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that I absolutely adored that character. Again, that was another one that I just was like, yeah, I know this guy. I mean, not literally, obviously, but like something inside I got. I felt I understood, identified with.
I was watching that yesterday, and the scale is so epic. The cinematography, 104. I remember, I saw that in like a VU in Shepherd's Bush, and it was crazy looking back to see the way the film world has changed. That I saw a 147-minute long, 60 million German production of a murderous French perfumist in the 8th century.
At the View.
Yeah. Good time on a Friday night, main screen. That's
really awesome. I remember that was overwhelming to me because of as you say, the scale. And I remember, actually, it would still be overwhelming to me now, to be fair. But, we were filming in places like Barcelona, and they would close down half this, half 1/4 of the city, the Gothic quarter, or whatever it's called. And what felt like hundreds of extras, the whole place transformed into Paris, filth, horses, an entire universe created. I just remember being driven to the set and being put down there and just being completely dazzled by the kind of way it had all been imagined, the richness of it all. It was a different time, wasn't it, Stephen? Like you couldn't really make that. I wonder if that film would be made now.
No,
quite that way, and it doesn't. Yeah, I think so too.
That's one of the reasons we started programming and showing movies. We had a little list of, because obviously there was so many. When I started off, there were so many movies to pick from, and I just stay up at night picking movies in my head, and then I was like, no, let's make a rule. Like, is this on Netflix or streaming or whatever? No. And one of the other big rules was would this ever be made now? And given the budgets or scales or even stuff like when I was watching all like the Whit Stillman movies and stuff, I was like, no one would fund this guy now for his, New York intellectual / coming of age movies and stuff. But I guess the revenue streams aren't there because we were talking about. I'm getting a tattoo of a DVD logo on my arm, and
Great.
I was really serious. People think I'm just like like I'm being a meme or something. But I was like, no, the DVD era was the most beautiful time in movies when audio commentaries, big epic making ofs where you had a budget to follow, like the Magnolia making of, where it's from the beginning of the shoot to the end.
Oh well, I've never seen that.
Oh, that's a great one to watch, man. You're just literally following Paul Thomas Anderson lose his mind for 90 days as he descends into his biggest movie ever. But yeah, that era, because you had the film revenue, the DVD revenue, the rental revenue, and so like a middle class indie like Perfume or Ghost World, all the Whit Stillman movies did, could have a fight in this and make some money back.
Yeah. And then around 2008, 2009, it all just changed, didn't it? That's how it felt to me, anyway.
Yeah, just it was crazy to me when you start reading about David Cronenberg can't get his crazy body horror movie made and stuff, and you're like, that guy's a genius. Or like Larry Clark not being able to fund his indie movies and stuff. It was but yeah, that mid-90s to the mid-2000s was a great time.
Agreed.
I remember, this is ridiculous to tell you, but when I was in film school, in the writing class, we had to adapt a scene from a book. So, obviously I picked the orgy scene in Perfume to adapt into a script section.
A scene. Right, yeah.
Yeah, you just have to write the screenplay. And then...
Wow, that's cool.
And then get people to read it out in class. And then... I have no idea why I just didn't do Catcher in the Rye or someone just like everyone else. But I was like, no, I think this is a really amazing scene, and
it is. Yeah. But you set yourself a difficult job there.
What the?
Because there's there's hardly any dialogue, is there? There's nothing.
No, just really graphic.
It's just...
No, I really enjoyed the dropping of was it the handkerchief or that year?
Yeah,
I had a really fun thing in that, and then but without context of a movie.
Yes, pretty
totally.
Wild
yeah, totally bizarre.
Well, it's a wild scene in context, let alone out.
Yeah.
But
it was funny looking back and watch. I only remembered when I watched it back yesterday, and I was like, okay, yeah, these guys really nailed my work right here. How does it feel having Paddington being the best reviewed film of all time? Have you read about this? That you've got the...
Yeah, people have been sending me things. They found some one lone bad review of Citizen Kane, didn't they?
Yeah.
Which meant that could no longer hold the top position.
Yeah.
Hilarious. But every single reviewer that there is liked Paddington 2.
It's beautiful. Cool. Yeah, it's such a great... Those movies are so great.
Yeah. Well, it feels really lovely. I mean, that was such a kind of... it all felt... the whole experience of being involved in those films feels strange to me because I was brought in very, very late in the process.
Oh, really?
Of the first one. And I think I was in the middle of doing something else. I didn't have a lot of time. I'd done, I'd auditioned and tried to do voice work for animation before, and I thought I was shit at it. So I had no wish to be involved. I was like, I can't do this stuff. I don't have the skill or whatever it is that's required. I don't want to be involved, but they kept asking me to come back and do another audition and blah, blah, blah. And then they said, yeah, we want you to do it. And the film has to come out in November. So I was just sort of thrown in and had no idea if my voice was going to work with this bear and blah, blah, blah. And, but it did. And now it's become this huge phenomenon in a way. But I feel it was all very last minute, and not with the second one. We did have more time with the second film to do it exactly as Paul King, the director, brilliant director, wanted. But the first one, certainly, I just was trying to catch up, I guess.
Why were they so late? Were they just trying to find the right voice for Paddington? Were they shopping different actors, or?
They had someone already. They had Colin Firth already, and that didn't work out. I'm sure I've spoken to Colin Firth about this, so this is all out and known. But yeah, and actually, I think Colin decided he wasn't right and was telling them, I'm not right for this. And then very late in the day, they all kind of agreed that he wasn't quite right and that they needed another kind of voice. So yeah, I think that happened. But those films are brilliant because of Paul King. And again, a bit like Chris Morris, Paul is so exacting. Like every joke, every beat, every moment has to work completely for him. And he won't sort of, he beats himself up and is endlessly scrutinizing it all until he's got it. I think especially with the second one, he was just intent on getting every moment perfect and every strand of the plot to be perfect. And I so admire that, the craft and the care. Yeah, I think people might think, I think he makes it look easy, and it wasn't easy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think people underestimate how hard it is to make a really nice family movie. I suppose you can just kind of put them in the cheesy, easy watch category, but there's so much more for those movies that really take a place in your heart as a kid and stuff. There's definitely some magic to them, which gets overlooked.
I think so. And I think they're kind of, people find them genuinely touching and hilarious and everything else. You know, they're not just cheesy or trite or whatever. They kind of have something that's genuinely moving at the center of them. So that's really all down to Paul and everyone, of course, but mainly Paul. He was amazing.
And you were in the Mary Poppins remake as well.
I was. Well, and that was an amazing thing for me because I so adored Mary Poppins as a kid. And I'm really pleased that I had the opportunity to see what that universe is like, you know, Disney. That's quite wild.
I remember meeting Lin-Manuel in London when he was on set, and all I wanted to talk to him about was his minor role in The Sopranos. And,
I didn't even know he was in The Sopranos.
Yeah, he's in one scene, and he said that James Gandolfini, I remember him saying that I think he was really relieved that no one wanted to talk about fucking Hamilton with him for once, which was, I think I was like, hey man, I really love it. And he's like, oh, here we go. And I was like, Sopranos is like, oh, cool. Yeah. So he said that James Gandolfini was really sweet, and that when his side of coverage was finished, he waited around for Lynn's side to be shot so he can bounce off, which he then told me that for listeners who don't know, I think if am I right, if we shoot your coverage one side talking to me, sometimes the actor can't be asked to hang about for the other side of the coverage to be shot. Is that right?
Well, to be completely honest, I have never personally experienced that, but yes, I hear that does happen.
Right.
Maybe with really big actors.
Right. Most people do hang around.
Everyone that I've worked with, has hung around.
Yeah.
Because but certainly I have heard stories where people have done their entire performance essentially
talking to
nothing,
no one.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, he was saying that he was really touched that it was a small scene, and I think it was really late. They were running late, and James was like, no, let's do this, man. I'm with you. Let's just stick around. And that's very cool. Paulie offered him so much unwanted acting advice. Just 24.
Really?
Yeah, just really like, listen here, kid. Here's the thing about the movie. And he's like, thank you, but I don't know why you're telling me all this. But I think I appreciate it. And how was it stepping into the role of Q? That's a huge budget, legendary franchise, iconic role. I mean, do you get nervous going into a franchise of this scale? Or then again, from one of your first roles was Perfume, so maybe you're already used to the huge scales.
I think sometimes I go into things, I mean, maybe most of the time go into things pretty ignorant or just unaware really of what it is I'm stepping into. And I think that was the case with Bond, because of course I'd seen Bond films, but I wasn't an aficionado. I hadn't seen every single one of them. I wasn't really aware of the scale of, obsession surrounding those films. So I just met Sam Mendes, and he'd seen another film that I'd been in called Bright Star, about John Keats, the poet John Keats. And he was a real fan of that film. And he was rejuvenating those roles, Q and Moneypenny and M. And he asked me to do it. So I was like, I'd watched Sam's work since I was really young. I just said yes. I would love, I would love to do it. But I wasn't really thinking about the whole of 50 years of Bond films that had gone before and the incredible performances that people had grown up with, and which is just as well probably. But yeah, sometimes now when I think about it, I get anxious because there is an obligation to give people what they want. People go to those films for specific things, don't they? And they're only happy to have it played with a tiny bit. They basically want the thing that they know they're going to get.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, it is scary, to be honest.
So I was just thinking, going back with Perfume, how was it when you walked on set for the first time to something of that scale, considering that was one of your first movies and you're the lead character, you're carrying the film?
I remember being terrified. I remember being so... Actually, this has stopped happening now, but because I think I'm just older and been doing it for longer and all sorts of other things. But I used to get terrible stomach pains. On every job, at some point, I'd be absolutely unable to walk or stand up with this kind of pain in my gut. And I remember before the very first day of shooting Perfume, I was afflicted with this thing again. And it was just terror, I think. And I didn't sleep, and I probably didn't eat, and I just probably smoked my way through the first few days. But I remember distinctly, we started shooting the scenes with Dustin Hoffman, and he was absolutely wonderful to me, and gave me amazing advice that I still remember and think about a lot, actually, because he would say things like, so I'd be in the middle of a take and I'd screw it up, or something would go wrong and I'd sort of drop out of the scene or, ask to go again. And Dustin would say things like, no, keep going. It's all about the mistakes. It's all about the things going wrong that you hadn't planned for, that you hadn't anticipated. Keep going, which I think is such, it was just so true. All the best things are mistakes, really. Not all the best things, but some of the best things are the things that just happen, that either go wrong or that are unexpected or something like that. And I remember him also saying, you're from the theatre, Ben, so you think that you have to get every take. You have to get every take right.
Sure.
Like you're giving a performance in the theatre. Because, of course, in the theatre, you can't go back and
there's
do
no
that
edit
speech
button.
again.
Yeah.
So you have to keep going, but that's not the case with film. So he's like, you just go again. We just go again. Do another take, and that's really extraordinarily liberating. And I watched him doing exactly that. It was again, I haven't thought about this in such a long time, but he just plays, but really plays, just makes stuff up, tries every single thing that comes into his head. Yeah, there's a kind of freedom about what he's doing that I realised is sort of the key to acting on film, I think, or maybe just acting generally.
When do you think you stopped freaking out? Was there a particular moment where you just thought, fuck it, I've got this? Or was it just a gradual process of doing more and more productions? Or how did you work through it?
I think it was connected to other things in my life. And I think I worked more. I got a bit older. I calmed down a bit. I learned to enjoy what I was doing more rather than feeling a kind of... I remember always feeling a sense of dread. Dread mingled with great pleasure, but always a sense of dread about acting. It's like, it's absolutely overwhelmingly terrifying sometimes. And I think just slowly it's become, and I still feel doing it like a kind of, I do still feel a sort of terror, but I think that's essential to doing it somehow. And is entwined with pleasure. So you can't really separate the two things. But yeah, slowly the stomach cramps just stopped, which is good.
Serge, when did you meet Anil? Was that on Beat or before?
I met Anil through my friend Jack. They went to school together, and I was at drama school with Jack. And I met him, I don't know, at a pub or something, probably in my early 20s, and sort of saw him around and vaguely knew him. And I think I did a bit in one of his student films. And always thought he was a really lovely guy and made me laugh. And then in 2012 or whenever it was, he was like, would you consider coming to do this thing with me? I think it's going to be a kind of music video. It was all quite vague.
Yeah.
And he described what this character at the center of this little thing was. And I was like, that sounds interesting. And then we went and shot this short film, which became Beat, on the streets of Hackney. And it was just the most joyous thing. Just 2 days. But we were in real locations. We went into supermarkets and cafes and stuff.
Were you stealing shots?
Sorry?
Were you stealing shots?
Sometimes, yeah.
Cool.
Sometimes I think we told people like, well, I think sometimes we got permission, but sometimes I'd be at a bus stop or something and no one would know that I was in a film and they'd be filming me from across the street.
Yeah.
So it was very, and I'd be, behaving strangely and freaking out or whatever it was Anil wanted me to do. And then he was just watching and capturing these moments. And I think we both finished making that short film and felt like even though it was a brief experience that it stayed with us both. And then some years passed and Anil had this idea of, I think he'd been doing some research into people who hold up banks.
Right.
And the research that revealed that often people who do this have never ever thought about doing it before. Haven't even, it's not preempted. It's not, they do it because of other circumstances in their lives and they find themselves quite unexpectedly holding up a bank. And they're not, hardened criminals. They don't know what the hell they're doing, basically. And he was quite fascinated by this concept. And so he started to write a film sort of took the character from Beat and put it in this situation of bank robberies. And he sent this to me and I was like, yeah, that's quite interesting. And then slowly over years, it shifted and changed and it became less about bank robberies and more about other things. But it was a sort of slow, organic process. And then, 2 years ago, we found ourselves making it. And I was sort of involved in, not writing, but he'd send me the drafts of the script and we'd go back and forth and share our ideas. And whenever it started to become, I actually haven't seen the film yet, so I don't really know how much we pulled this off, but whenever it started to become too much like a thriller or too sort of easily graspable or too structured or too something, we'd sort of make it lo-fi again, make it very... It's sort of a film that revolves around tiny moments, tiny things going wrong, or and I like that about it. It's kind of quite miniature. It's not. I think lo-fi is how Anil would describe it. So anyway, it was definitely one of my favorite ever experiences. I had the most wonderful time doing it with him.
You'll be happy to know the film's fantastic and it came out very well.
I'm pleased you feel that, Stephen. Yeah, I'm going to watch it in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, one of my favorite things was the ambiguity and the things unsaid. And but how was it? Your character feels so compressed. I almost felt like a slinky that you've just pressed down and then you're just suddenly, firing off and going on this nocturnal odyssey of mayhem, crime, exploration, freedom.
Yeah.
How was it being so wired and tense throughout an entire shoot? Because the film's pretty much set in one day. So how is it? How is it maintaining that energy?
It felt really great. It felt really great to do. I think it felt great because it's not intellectual in any way. It's not that there's nothing, he's not acting rationally. He's not, it's not cerebral. It's not in any way to do with his mind. You know, that's what he's trying to escape, I suppose. So it's all about the body. And in a weird way, it was more like being a dancer or something like that. It was extremely about physicality and about sensation, how things felt. And that was so joyful to do. And there was no, there were no limits. There was no limitations on what we could do. It was joyous. It didn't ever feel. The bits that were hardest to do were the bits when he hasn't kind of broken out of his compressed, slinky state. Those are the hardest things.
Right.
Like the dinner with the parents and the stuff at the airport. Because then when he's got that kind of weight on him, that was not so nice to inhabit. But everything else was felt so good. So I hope that translates, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the details in your character is amazing. You've got so many kind of agitating and odd mannerisms, from the way you drink to the fork grinding along your teeth. How did you come about with those details?
I think some of that stuff is I think from Anil, and he had written those things quite specifically in the script, and I have no idea where on earth they come from in Anil. But yeah, the stuff of like grinding my teeth on a glass or a fork, that was definitely an Anil thing. And other things, he'd go, "You did something with your jaw. Do that again."
Right.
he'd just spot, you know, because at a certain point I wasn't even really aware of what I was doing. So he would just, he'd spot little things and want more of it or less of it, or and we'd go that way. And I worked a little bit with a choreographer friend of Anil's about how to pitch certain things and how to, I think we called it when Joseph is surging and how to sort of get him up to maximum surge.
What were you watching for inspiration? Did you guys discuss any movies or acting roles?
God, I feel like we did, and now I'm going to forget. What's it called? Anil sent me a very disturbing film. I think it's called The Mole. Does that ring a bell to you, Stephen?
No. Oh, let me Google.
I think it's a Scandinavian film. It was about 5 or 6 years ago, and it's now gone from my mind. But it was a reference because it's a film that basically follows one man very closely, uncomfortably closely, and that was what Anil wanted us to do. But other than that, we didn't really talk about films. No, that's not true. He also showed me a film, an Iranian filmmaker. Now, what's his name?
Kiarostami?
Panahi. Is that the name?
Yeah.
God, my brain is...
The Mirror?
It wasn't The Mirror. It was another one. It was again set over a night in Iran, I think. Jafar Panahi, is that the name of the director? Yeah. We watched one of his films, and that was actually wonderful because, again, it was a film where nothing really happens. There's nothing obviously dramatic or nothing. Nothing too organized. It's just sort of like random chaos happening in a city, and that's also something that Anil really wanted to capture. The sense of London, of the city. Those were two things that we did discuss a little bit. And then I think also another thing that happened over time is that as we were sort of developing, well, as Anil was developing the film, is that it became more about, less about a man who commits a crime and more about someone, God, I hate to use this word, but it became more spiritual in a way. I don't know another word to use, but like about someone trying to be present. So hard to talk about these things without sounding
No, that
really
totally
awful.
comes across. I totally get that.
Yeah.
There is a, like I said, it's almost like an odyssey of, or a journey into freedom. I do feel that he has almost like a transcendental moment.
That's what we wanted. That's what we were really interested in.
Did you give him a backstory to his, there's all these very sad, intense scenes with his family where you kind of like, this is why he's wired the way he is. This almost, I can see the...
Yeah. It's funny. A lot of the time when we were trying to get the script in the right place, neither Anil or myself were very articulate about. It was just a sort of feeling of like, I think it's got to be more like this. But then a week or two before we started filming, we did sit down and I just asked Anil lots of quite specific questions, like where did he go to university? What was he like at university? Has he had a girlfriend? When did he leave? And Anil just told me everything. It's like, I think he did this, and I think people think this about him, and it was really specific, and then we never talked about it again. We just did it.
How long were you shooting for? Because it feels so frantic.
It was a 5-week shoot, so that's not bad for a film like this one. It wasn't too frantic. It felt quite. It felt like we had the time, and it was one of the. It was as much as we possibly could. And Neil would keep me apart from everything, and then literally just drop me into wherever it was I was going to be, into a post office or a bank or a whatever. So I wouldn't know anything before we started filming. He kept me in another room, separate from the other actors, stuff like that. And of course, once you've done one take, you start to work together and refine things. But we always did the first take, pretty much not knowing what was going to happen within the confines of, the scene. But
how do you pick your roles and projects? Is there anything in particular that draws you to things?
Sometimes it's like a desire to work with a director I've really admired. Sometimes it's very much something I don't even think about too much. It's just an instinct of like, yeah, I can do this. I know what this is all about. And so, yeah, I just make the decisions quite quickly, I think. And if I have to think too much about it, probably means it's not going to be right. If I start to ooh and ah, or should I or shouldn't I? But increasingly, I want to work on smaller films where you have freedom, to do what you want. That's what interests me. and people with voices of their own. That's really what gets me excited. I really like working with someone who's very clear about what they want from you. It makes me really happy to be in their vision of things, and that thing of like freedom within structure. That's my ideal thing. Like someone like Yorgos Lanthimos. It's a very specific world, you're going to be inhabiting. And you just have to give yourself over to it. And the same with someone like Anil in a way. It's like it's very specific. It's not. It's personal, I suppose, to them. It's a personal view of things. Does that make sense?
How was it on? Yeah, for sure. How was it on The Lobster? Working with that kind of monotonous, monotone delivery that it's very specific to him. That there's almost deliberately no life in the delivery of a script. It's just read really flat.
Yeah. It was so interesting because we didn't have any rehearsal, any discussion. Yorgos didn't want to talk about anything at all. But you knew from reading it, you had an instinct from reading it that it needed to be done in a specific way. And then I remember we all turned up at the hotel in Ireland where we were filming, and everyone was like, so what do you do? And how do we do this? And I remember Colin Farrell just saying, just do nothing, do absolutely nothing, literally nothing at all. And that's what we all did, I think. And Yorgos, anytime you tried to invent something or put something in there, he'd go, why are you doing that with your eyes? Why did you do that with your arm? Just do nothing. Come into the room, say the lines and leave. And it sounds so, that sounds like such bad direction, but it's brilliant because it's so, again, the writing is, well, that's the way it needed to be done. And of course it's not nothing. Like you actually end up doing lots of things, but it's not, it's hard to explain, but it's sort of, something happens by not trying to do anything.
For sure. Yeah. It's just not loud, but it's definitely there.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got to talk about A Very British Scandal.
Okay, yeah.
I love Stephen Frears.
Yeah, he's awesome.
I think that guy's a genius. He can make anything. If you look at his filmography, the different genres he's worked in is just really spectacular. I don't think that guy gets enough love. I think he's a total auteur who can just turn his hand to anything.
Yeah, I agree, actually. He's amazing. He's also like Yorgos in a sense of doesn't say much, doesn't explain anything, lets you get on with it, and then will just make some tiny correction, or give you a tiny note. One thing maybe, and that's all you need to know, and then off you go. He also works, I think, a bit by making everyone a little uncomfortable, a bit, also like Yorgos does. Everyone's it feels a bit chaotic. It feels a bit like Yorgos isn't chaotic. Stephen feels a bit chaotic sometimes. She's not sure if like anyone knows what they're doing. But I think he needs that environment to be creative in. Yeah, it's interesting. I think he really is extraordinary, actually. And again, it's all sort of done like he's not really trying. But he's really working very hard.
Your monologue at the end in the court, incredible. One of the best. I think that's my favorite performance of yours.
Oh, Thank you.
How many takes did you do? That was just so moving and brilliant.
I can't really remember, but I think probably not many. I think but you never did many takes with Stephen, like 2 or 3 max. And what he'd get excited. Stephen would get excited if he saw something. If he sensed like you were about to go somewhere that he had not anticipated. And I think that happened with that speech. He was suddenly like, oh, no, we need to get the camera here and we need to do this. And then we did one more take, and that was the one that I think they ended up using. So he could see that I was going somewhere with that speech. And then he made a little adjustment. And then, we had it. It's very kind of quick. Oh, it often works that way. Yeah.
Wow, you make it sound so easy and you underplay it. That was such an incredible performance.
Well, also the writing's amazing. It's just there, really. But sometimes, you do have a sense of like, something's happening, something's kind of coming through me. I don't know. It's sort of hard to talk about. Yeah. But I suppose those are the moments you live for. They make it worthwhile.
And final question, who are your favorite actors? Who do you admire, past and present?
I'm always banging on about her, and I'm far from the only person who loves her, but I am obsessed with Jenna Rowlands. I think Jenna Rowlands and John Cassavetes in those films are my gods, really. I just adore them. I'd say those two right now. If I ever feel like I need a bit of inspiration or a bit of like, if I feel lost and don't know, haven't quite got my feet on the ground on one particular day when I'm shooting or whatever, I'll watch them. And there's a great book of interviews with him, which is like a Bible, really. It's so good. If you need some sort of acting, you need to coach yourself. I turn to him. Do you like their films, Stephen?
Hell yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what
A Woman Under the Influence.
Yeah.
Masterpiece, favorite for me. Love Streams, beautiful. Yeah. Opening Night might be my favorite.
Yeah.
And I love Peter Bogdanovich's cameo in that. Yeah. And I thought it was... I know that was after he... there's that tragic story of his girlfriend being murdered.
No. I know a little bit about this. I know a little bit about it.
It's the basis of the films. Yeah, Cassavetes was like, dude, you need to get back at it. You need to come back into the film world. And he was just like, I'm far too fucking depressed to do anything right now. And I thought it was really sweet. He just, as a friend, he was like, come back out. You're with us. You're with family.
Yeah.
And let's kind of get you out of this and back into the film world. And Gloria, I had a real reassessment with in lockdown.
Yeah.
I loved it. So cool.
It's really
and
wonderful.
The fact the kid, he's just like a baby Cassavetes character.
He's Cassavetes, basically, yeah.
Yeah. And he's just like, shut up, woman, I'm going to do what it was so great that
it's hilarious.
He didn't pander to him. He just said, no, I'm going to treat you like I would a normal actor.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have a thing where I always say with Robert Rodriguez, when he was shooting Machete, they said, why did you want to do it? And he said, well, I got a new camera that was super HD, and Danny Trejo has a high definition face. So every time when I watch Cassavetes or I see Seymour Cassell or Peter Falk or Gina Rowlands or Sissy Spacek, Harry Dean Stanton's my hero, I'm like, that's a high definition face.
I love. Yeah, he's another actor I absolutely adore. Yeah, that's a beautiful way of putting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know my girlfriend in the cinema when we're at something to BFI, and I was like, high definition face right there. And they see someone like Warren Oates or or Shelley Duvall or someone like that. I'm like, these are the type of faces that are very much missing from cinema right now, I think. I'm just like, those old school character actors, I just can't get enough. Or Ben
Me
Gazzara.
too.
How could I forget Ben Gazzara?
Oh, Ben Gazzara. Him in The Killing of a Chinese Bookie, that is such a beautiful performance.
Awesome, yeah.
Yeah, it's a style that's you don't really get to see that often now.
I did with Lean on Pete. Did you catch that? The
I haven't seen that yet. It's the Andrew Hay film. Yeah,
stunning.
I got to see it. Yeah, got to see that.
Yeah,
I love his films.
Oh, I think 45 Years is in my top 10 of all time for me. That was just...
Well, that's funny you say that, because I think Charlotte Rampling in that film is one of my favourite performances. I think she's just extraordinary. I'm really inspired by her. She really does things to me.
Yeah, those were just knockout performances.
Yeah.
Even just seeing a middle-aged couple at the center of just a really average middle-aged couple at the center of a film was really fucking great for me.
Me too. I was very moved by that film. Yeah.
And finally, Husbands, I can't get. I struggled with it in lockdown. I think it was lockdown brain, but I'm going to go again one last time.
Husbands, I've only watched that one once. And actually, I think I did give that film to Anil to watch. And I think he was a bit nonplussed by it. But it's a tricky one. It feels like the one that's most about to completely fall apart, doesn't it? It's like they're just taking it to such an extreme that it feels like the whole film could collapse at any moment. But I personally love it. I need to watch it again too.
I think it's maybe purist Cassavetes.
Yeah.
But in that sense, he's not holding anything back. But I did go for a phase in early lockdown where I just couldn't. I couldn't digest or absorb heavy movies. So maybe I'll.
Oh God, me too. Yeah, me too.
I just wanted comfort.
There's a time and
Seinfeld.
a place.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a time and a place for these things. They're not every day. Yeah.
I'm going to let you go, Ben.
I should go. Yes. Yes. I hope it's been...
this has been great. Such a pleasure talking to you. I've been such a fan of your work, so this was really nice.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you. And thank you for showing the film and all of that. It's really brilliant.
Oh, we really love it, man. Keep up the amazing work.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
There you go. Ben Whishaw. What a beautiful man. Okay, I texted Neil to follow up on those movies that Ben was trying to remember. It was The Ape, Not the Mole from 2009, and the Iranian movie was Crimson Gold from 2003. If you want to do some further research and watch those. There you go. That's it from me. As always, thanks to my engineer, Ewan Henselwood, and Joshua Eustace, aka Telephone Tel Aviv, for all the beautiful music. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.